Hey, we're on the air. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to the BAMF podcast. I am your host, Mike Lafferty, and today we're reviewing Solo, the Star Wars prequel, but in a good way. And our roundtable today is Jacob Blackman. How you doing, Jacob?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Nick Garber from Epigee Comics. How you doing, Nick?
Good. How you guys doing?
All right, and for our viewers on our YouTube channel, Nick is snappily dressed as a Imperial officer with his black cap.
Yes.
And you're in the 501st?
I am. I'm an inactive member, but since I've moved to Texas from California, I haven't found a garrison yet.
Okay, cool.
So if you're listening and you're in the South Texas region, you're part of the 501st, send my happy-ass a friend request so I can get back into doing this.
All right, cool. And last but not least is Walt Rebelliard. How you doing, Walt?
Yeah.
All right, are you recovering from the holiday weekend?
Oh my God. Yeah, these holiday weeks are murder. So, but I got my cool snazzy Star Wars cup, so we're good.
All right, cool. Walt works in the liquor distribution business, and as you can imagine, Memorial Day in the United States is sort of a busy time for him. So, anyway, glad you could caffeinate and be with us here today. I'm going to fess up. I am the guy on the podcast who was a slacker this week and haven't seen Solo. And I am sorry about that, but my personal life is complicated. And it's hard to swing babysitting sometimes. So basically, I have to do a lot of horse trading and a bunch of manual labor on my parents' house in exchange for, childcare. And I didn't feel like moving a grand piano up to the third floor. So, yeah. Maybe I'll catch them. Huh?
Not without help.
Not without help. So maybe I'll catch it on a Russian BitTorrent later. I don't know. So starting from left to right, I'm going to go Jacob, Nick, Walt. Actually, Walt, you always go last. We'll start with you and move
start with Walt.
through Nick and Jacob.
Walt.
Dear
What'd you
Lord.
think of Solo?
I'm more usually one when the Star Wars movies come out to troll all the different review sites and see what reviewer I can flip off the most. And it was no different with this film. I think that because a lot of people had such low expectations, everybody surrounding me in the theater was pleasantly surprised, and I was the same way. I really enjoyed this movie for one simple fact, and fact alone. It was not trying to live up to the rest of the hype machine that is Star Wars. It had some bumps and bruises, much like any movie that's derivative of a big franchise. But overall, I thought it was really, really good representation of the character in his early years. But the thing I really enjoyed was that the character himself had those slight little nods to what Han Solo would become, because I know that myself, some of my very longtime friends, we are nowhere near the 20 or 30-year-old versions of ourselves. I mean, we got that personality quirk or trait that calls back to it, but there's really not a lot of the person we used to be and the people we are now. And I think that's pretty much the same with how Solo was presented here. You had those hints of Harrison Ford, while at the same time, Alden had his own take on it, which was a lot of fun. And for me, the best part of this movie was the meeting between Chewbacca and Han Solo. I thought it was quick, fun. They didn't try and drag it out into some mystical friendship bonding experience. And the best, I love the scene when they're conversing in Chewbacca's language, Shrirook, or however you say it.
You got it right.
It was great. I mean, he's sitting there and just trying to get his point across, and you hear a roar from the other side, and he's like, no, I speak a little. It was really a lot of fun. So yeah, this is a definite thumbs up from me. The second this hits either streaming or like disc, I'm definitely buying this, and there's gonna have to be a home screening of this with everybody dressed as gangsters, because I think that would be fantastic.
Space gangsters or Earth gangsters?
Star Wars gangsters. Star Wars gangsters have style.
That's true. If we did real gangsters, half of my mother's side of the family would show up, and that just they eat a lot. In person, lots of hand gestures. There's only so much room in the house. They're going to be knocking stuff over. So yeah, take it easy, take it clean.
Gotcha. All right, that'd be more of a Sopranos screening than a solo screening.
Yeah, either that or John Wick. You take your pick.
All right, cool. I hear you. Mr. Garber, what'd you think?
Sir. I really enjoyed it. When I heard there was going to be a solo movie and being a fan of the EU and the original trilogy, there were certain things that needed to be touched on for it to be a successful solo film. One of them, Han being inside the Imperial Navy as a pilot. That got checked off the block real quick, and I was happy about that. 2, how he gets introduced to Chewie. It was different than what used to be canon in the EU, but they were able to bring it back to the spice mines of Kessel, which, kind of filled the block for me. So I enjoyed the movie. Are we doing spoilers or no?
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Hang on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jump off the podcast now if you don't want to know anything. Oh, by the way, eventually his son kills him with a lightsaber. All right, go.
Many years from now, but you probably Darth Maul's return.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
That blew me away. I mean, I had some people that saw it the Thursday night, the night prior to the official release. I saw it Friday, and they're like, "Hey, do you watch Clone Wars or Rebels?" I'm like, "Well, I'm halfway through the first season of Clone Wars. I haven't even started Rebels yet. I'm a little behind." And they're like, "Oh, there's a cameo. It's just gonna blow you away." I'm like, "Okay. I mean, it's not gonna blow me away. I don't watch the fucking series, but." But if they would have said, "Hey, were you a fan of the Phantom Menace?" I would have, 1, kicked them in the balls. But 2, if they would have said, "Hey, there's a cameo from the Phantom Menace," and I would have been like, "Oh, it's probably Darth Maul." But when he showed up, I was just like, man, and he was in all his epic glory and badassness. And hopefully they make another solo movie to kind of go into that further, where it becomes a more prominent character in that part of the timeline. I think that'd be amazing. So it touched all the blocks for me going into it, with all of the reports of like production problems and reshoots and things like that. I went in with very low expectations, and I walked out pleasantly surprised. I was very happy. It was a damn fun movie. I was entertained for 2 hours and 14 minutes. Didn't check my watch once. Was really digging it. A lot of people were bitching like, "Well, we know that they all survived, so there's not really any tension." There was still tension. It was still cool. Donald Glover's portrayal of Lando, spot on.
Yeah, that was fun. Fun.
His syntax, talking mannerisms, all that shit. Complete Billy D. Williams, but with his own flair to it. It was awesome. We get to see how Han gets, we all know how Han gets the Millennium Falcon, but we thought we were going to get a little bit earlier on in the movie, and it was just like a total, psych on you, But then we know why. It was a damn fun movie, and I hope they make another one. Next on the plate, I guess, is Boba Fett. So I was also expecting to see Boba Fett show up somewhere.
You think that would be a logical cameo, right?
Well, yeah. Boba Fett shouldn't show up until after Han,
when he goes to Tatooine.
Leaves off and goes to Tatooine.
Yeah.
Yeah, to do that job that was already talked about earlier in the movie.
And, if you guys are a fan of things like Boba Fett, right now the series that I have been evangelizing, Galaxy's Edge, for the Inside subscribers, they just released a book called Requiem for Medusa. And it's about one of the main characters in the storyline, this guy Tyrus Rex, the T-Rex of the Legion. So if you guys are a fan, that should be coming out probably end of June, early July, somewhere for like regular readers. And it's all the Boba Fett action you didn't know you wanted. Very, very cool.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. So Boba Fett hasn't done much on screen before now, except look menacingly at the camera and then fall into a Sarlacc's open mouth.
And die quite prestigious.
Yeah. So I kind of want him to either be a complete just badass from Jump Street in this movie, or to be kind of like Johnny English, sort of like a Mr. Bean who just kind of pratfalls through the whole thing and gets a reputation as being a badass by accident.
Which would be awesome.
Martin Riggs, Lethal Weapon type, where he's kind of slapsticky, but still kind of a badass.
I could see that. He doesn't. I mean, they haven't really given him much of a personality up until now, so they could do pretty much whatever they want, I guess.
The EU stuff, he's portrayed from back in the day. He was portrayed as pretty much a badass. So it would be interesting to see if they kept with that line or went a different way with it.
Oh, I think you kind of. I think the fans gonna want to see Boba Fett kicking ass. I don't think my idea is just would be great for like a 3-panel comic strip, but I think people want to pay $7 to see Boba Fett. Want to see Boba Fett.
Now here's the real question. As he is, himself a clone, can he actually shoot things, or will he miss every time? As the rest of the clone troopers do.
Well, the clone troopers were better than the stormtroopers.
The clone troopers were ass kickers.
It's the conscripts later on that couldn't hit shit.
And Rex actually goes into that during Star Wars Rebels. He's talking about how there are times where he disguises himself as a stormtrooper. He's like, what is with these new helmets? You can't see anything. No wonder these guys can't hit.
That's awesome.
Banging their heads on a bulkhead on the Death Star.
Apparently, the new Republic put forth the money for good equipment, whereas the Empire is just churning out crap from the looks of it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like how the Union won the Civil War. If you have enough people in uniform on your side, eventually you're bound to win just by numbers.
Yeah.
But unless you have a psychic boy wizard, fighting against you. In which case, hey, anyway, Jacob, you're talking. What do you think about this movie?
Much like everyone else, I enjoyed it, and fun is the key word for this film. It is a lot of fun. There is a ton of action in it, pretty much from the opening. A lot like Rogue One, you don't get a crawl, but you do get a little talking point of what's going on with Corellia, so you know where Han is coming from when the movie starts, and pretty much from then it is go go go. It's a chase scene followed by a tense negotiation, followed by another chase scene, followed by a fight in the middle of a planet being taken over by the Empire, followed by him stuck in a cage with Chewbacca. It is one action bit after another, with the slow points in these films are very short and really help to get you to the next bit of action, which is pretty fun for this film. But it's still, despite all that, you still get a great idea of the characters, and you seeing who they are, knowing where they're coming from, what their motivations are, and all that sort of thing, which I always have to applaud Ron Howard for. He is great at character-driven movies.
I would agree. Richie Cunningham has made good. Let me ask you guys a question, since we're ostensibly a gaming and comics podcast. If you wanted to do an RPG, maybe a short session, maybe a one-shot, to capture the flavor of Solo, what game would you want to use?
My roommate ran a great Star Wars game on Mutants Mastermind 2nd Edition. He was thinking about converting it to 3rd Edition, but then his job prevented him from pretty much running anything. So I'm still waiting on that. I haven't had a chance to really play the Fantasy Flight Games version yet, but I have looked at the books and am interested in it. I just don't know what the flow of the game is like.
For the new Fantasy Flight Star Wars?
Yeah.
If you go on to, sorry, I got to plug another podcast, Happy Jack's RPG, and search their actual plays, they have an entire series where they did an actual play of the new Star Wars game. Okay. Their impression was fun, but not a go-to game for them because of the quirky dice mechanic.
Now those guys are all they're Savage Worlds guys, right?
Yeah, it depends on the host. Okay. Most of the hosts bounce back and forth between different games, and now that they're doing a lot of actual plays, they do. They're debuting a lot of different games. So you can get anything from fate-based to lots of Savage Worlds. Especially, they just did a series, a Rift series. Lots of two of the hosts are big evangelists for Powered by the Apocalypse. So they've been pushing that quite a bit. So I mean, it really depends on what actual play you're talking about and who the host is.
Okay, cool. Good to know. And we are slowly getting a BAMF Twitch channel set up. So someday in the future, hopefully we'll be doing a lot more actual plays.
Yes.
Under this banner too. Nick, if you were going to game this movie, how would you want to game this movie?
I wish I had a knowledge base. I haven't played a whole lot of RPGs, like the tabletop things, so I really am not the best person to ask, especially which game I would use. Whatever you guys suggest, I would be more than willing to play.
All right, cool. Fair enough.
That sounds like a challenge to us. So,
bring it. I'm a geek. I like geek shit.
Walt, you want to run it?
Damn straight, I would.
Okay.
Please me, Walt.
Cool. I guess I have to ask, Walt, you wouldn't go with White Star on this?
I might if the players were very, very new or like Nick hasn't seen a lot of exposure, I'd go with White Star just because there's not a bucket full of dice you need to understand or complicated mechanics. But after some graduation, maybe Savage Worlds too, because of the the best part of any outlaw are the flaws. So having edges and hindrances would be a big draw for a game like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really weigh in. I'm kind of bummed the box office isn't what we thought it was going to be. It means we're probably not going to see many more summer releases for Star Wars for a while. But
Jesus, I mean, leave it to Disney to take $100 million opening weekend movie and call it a flop. What a bunch of assholes.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did have to shoot the movie twice, and that's kind of their own fault because they fired the other guys.
They're going to make the money back and then some. I think they've had better success with the November, December releases.
Yeah. I mean, that's when Rogue One came out. Was Christmas.
Right, and Force Awakens came out. Last Jedi, even though I despised it, it still came out and it made a whole bunch of money. So how about the Star Wars for the new generation released around the holiday times? Christmas, Thanksgiving, things like that. Probably the best one.
Yeah, the problem is Disney's also competing with itself right now because Infinity War was just a few weeks ago.
We're just over a month now, and then did the merger with 20th Century Fox happen?
Comcast is throwing a kibosh on that possibly, so it's not a final deal yet.
Okay, so I mean, if let's say Disney acquires that, then they get the X universe, they get Fantastic Four, they get Deadpool, and now Disney's gonna own the summer with superheroes. So why not split it up? Superhero summer, just because SS it rhymes, not because I'm wearing a hat. But and then leave the holidays for the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. But
Disney,
I mean, it's
hire me right now. I'll fix your shit.
Yeah, Disney has a lot of problems this week. Apparently, there's a tent city of Disneyland employees somewhere near Anaheim because a lot of them can't afford rent in Southern California.
Holy shit!
But they make $18 an hour. But then again, I'm a California native, and that is nothing. So yeah.
Yeah, I was once offered a job to work in LA, and they made a big deal. It was going to be $60,000 a year, which was a step up from where I was in Tucson. But Tucson rent is like, two goats.
Anywhere else in the country, $60,000, living like a king. Especially where I live right now, you would live like a king. California, you're going to be on food stamps.
Yeah, it was going to be bad, and I was like, no, But yeah, so it's a bad week for Disney news. But so did we ever talk about The Last Jedi? Do we have a podcast talk about that? Do we want to talk about that?
I don't think we talked about that, but you're going to have very varied opinions, especially with two of the guys on this panel.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nick, you and Walt both hate this movie, right?
I wouldn't say I hate it. It's just there was things about it that just didn't seem within character for the characters. So I think there was a lot of missed opportunities. Yeah, we all know that there's fuel in the Star Wars universe. We just never used it as a plot point before. So that kind of threw me off. I've watched it probably more times than I've ever watched a movie that I can't stand. just to see if there's something that I'm missing. I keep constantly I want to like it. That's the thing. I want to like it. But the more I watch it, the more it just kind of validates everything that I thought about it. It's just, how come his hand didn't disappear when he went to the Force? What the fuck?
Yeah,
when Bucky disappeared, after the snap, how come his arm went with him? These are things that piss me off when I watch a movie.
All right, well, fair enough. One of the most hardcore Star Wars guys I know has given up on the franchise after seeing The Last Jedi.
Really?
Yeah, this was a guy who would argue the prequels were quality filmmaking that was consistent with, George Lucas's cycle, blah, blah, blah. He would get into you with it on how Phantom Menace and Clone Wars were actually good movies. Last Jedi, he couldn't do it. He just got rid of all the Star Wars shit, just walked away. So I don't know if that's a common reaction, but I was kind of surprised by it. Jacob, what'd you think of that movie?
There were good points. There were bad points. A lot of the plot could have been changed by simply saying, what they were doing. If you're fleeing to what is supposed to be a secure rebel base, why not tell your people we are fleeing to a secure rebel base rather than leave them hanging and causing a near mutiny?
Okay. I'm going to interject as a military leader. Holy shit. That was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
You tell your people what you're doing.
You break it down, Barney style, to the lowest common denominator. So everybody knows the plan. You don't keep it hidden. You don't hold anything back. You tell them everything because the plan's going to go to shit. No plan survives first contact. Ever. I don't care who you are. SF, Delta, SEAL Team 6, Dev Group, whatever. Your plan's going to go to shit the minute you hit the ground or the first round goes at you. And she's over here going, oh, well, I don't need to tell you, Captain. What? I'm a leader inside your resistance. I think I should know what the plan is so I can brief my subordinates. So when the plan goes to shit, we know that how the plan was supposed to be, and now how are we going to get the plan back? And that's just that was one of the biggest hangups I had with the movie too. That and we introduced this character to make this ultimate sacrifice when I think it would have been more memorable had we used Akbar or Leia or someone that's been through the established timeline and canon. Not introduce blue-haired, secrecy chick, and then now she gets to be the hero of the rebellion. Now get the fuck out of here, Laura Dern.
Yeah, no, I would rather have seen Leia or like you said, Leia or Akbar make that sacrifice. Would have been much more meaningful.
Right, it would have had a little bit more impact, and I think it would have tugged at the heartstrings more, especially those of us that have been with it for the majority of it, or if not the beginning of the series. That would have been a fitting end, Akbar taking that ultimate sacrifice. I still go to sleep at night and dream that was the actual scene that happened and not the shit.
Yeah. Now, the side point story where they were commenting on if you want to affect real change, instead of fighting this new wannabe empire, you need to take on the people who are funding them. That is a huge ring of truth in that universe and ours as well.
Absolutely.
That is the political stamp on that movie. In that it's not the government, it's these rich fuckers.
So who's winning?
I mean, if you look at it, that's the government, though. The government's filled with rich people that make millions of dollars. I'll take it back to Iraq. When we were going after terrorists and bad guys and, tier 1, tier 2 HVTs, we got to those guys because we went after the dudes that provided the money.
Yeah.
And they gave them up. Yeah, we took out the actual, action guys. We took them out, but we crippled their money. And so, yeah, it makes sense. But still the side thing with Rose, and Rose is just a stupid character. I don't even know why she's in there. You got Finn's trying to do like this awesome heroic thing, and she goes in there and fucks it up for everybody.
Yeah. I would like to remind listeners that Nick does not hate this movie.
I don't hate it. I'm disappointed because they had set up things in The Force Awakens that just we either got bullshit half answers on, blatant lies, or they just didn't touch on it at all. Like the Knights of Ren, where the fuck did they go? Who are they? Hopefully they show up in episode 9.
Yeah, they might. We'll see what happens. It's
the whole Snoke thing. Where did he come from? I have questions, but I know they put a book out, so I'll probably pick it up and read it because I am interested in how this Force user who nobody's ever heard of comes over, reforms the Empire, calls it puts a new label on it, and is this massive force in the galaxy now. I have questions about that.
Yeah. That's been my biggest beef with the whole follow-on trilogy was I was hoping for like new stories with new threats and not just, hey, let's fight the Empire again. Here's more stormtroopers. Wasn't this fun last time?
Yeah.
I mean, Lucas kind of set that precedent, like the first and third parts of his trilogies are usually very similar. I mean, look at Indiana Jones, look at Star Wars. The first and third installments are very similar. They do have their unique nuances, which make them entertaining and kind of stand out. Sometimes they throw a fucking Ewok in there, whatever. But still, it's still enjoyable. And yeah, Lucas had his problems, during the first trilogy. Lawrence Kasdan made the most amazing Star Wars movie ever with The Empire Strikes Back, which he should just hire him to do all of the Star Wars shit. But
yeah, well, hey, I think we've probably run this horse into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick it back up and beat it down even further, just because of how much.
Getting back to Solo, I want to say one of the things I really enjoyed. That Darth Maul scene was really nice, especially when you get to the name Crimson Sun. Is that S-U-N or now is it S-O-N?
Is this an EU reference? I'm not getting it.
The Crimson Sun is the villain organization that the people are working for in the movie.
Okay.
We owe these guys money. We are doing these crimes to pay off the Crimson Sun.
Was that the same criminal organization in the hell's the name of that book?
No, that was the Black Sun.
The Black Sun. Okay, with Caesar Kuhn, right?
With Caesar.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things I loved about Darth Maul was how they did it, because you got Ray Park playing the part, and you got Sam Witwer's voice, who's been doing the voice for Maul since Clone Wars.
Yeah, because he wasn't the voice in Phantom Menace, was he?
He didn't speak at all in Phantom Menace.
Darth Maul did. He had 2 speaking lines.
Nope.
Yes, he did. In Phantom Menace, he says,
"We'll reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, we'll have our revenge."
That was in the trailers and maybe in an extended cut, but in the theatrical scene, which is the only version I've seen, he never spoke.
That's weird.
We're going to disagree because I'm about to research the hell out of that. Not because I want to be wrong, because I want to prove I'm not crazy.
That's fine. I remember the lines. Yes, I remember the lines being spoke in the trailer, but that never happened in the actual theatrical release.
IMDb is no good to us because it's going to give them credit anyway, even for the trailers.
Yeah,
but the callback was really, really good because it does call back to all that great stuff in the Clone Wars, especially I believe that was season 4 and 5 that they did those storylines.
Yes,
and it was very well done. It shows that Maul as a character had much more to offer, and then you get the carryover when they went to Rebels, and that
yeah. Now I'm really curious of, he's the leader of the Crimson Sun. What caused him to fall that far? Because when you see him in Rebels, he's this hermit guy on this planet. What happened?
Yeah,
now I want to know. Now I want to know that story.
Well, most of that was covered in Clone Wars, and then some of it was also covered in some of the comics. So
the Solo takes place between Clone Wars and Rebels.
Right.
The last we saw in Clone Wars with Maul, he was chased off by Palpatine, and when you see him in Rebels, he's a hermit.
Yes.
So in between that, he's a crime lord.
Yep. And then you get some of those answers in some of the Darth Maul comics that have come out from I believe it was. I don't know if it was Marvel. It might have been Dark Horse. I'd have to go look. But yeah, you get some of those answers about what happens because Palpatine chases him off at the end of Clone Wars, but spares him so that because he says he has another purpose, and that's one of the things that happens.
Yeah, and having just finished watching season 3 of Rebels, there's that whole bit.
Yeah. Have you checked out?
Was a fight. That was a traditional Japanese fight between masters.
Yep.
Talking about the Obi-Wan Kenobi Darth Maul fight.
That lasted a whole 5 seconds. Yeah.
Yep.
3 moves. We counted them.
Because at the end of the day, it really wasn't. The battle between them that was important. It was their relationship that they've had over all this time. Every time they've encountered each other, it's Kenobi's love of his friends versus Maul's hatred of everyone. Mm-hmm. And what does that do to a person's soul? And how does that balance you in a fight?
They had a lot of. I was surprised at the rapport they had in that scene.
Yeah, very well done. I got to tell you, there's a I think it's a 6-inch or an 8-inch figure out there that somebody did of Kenobi that could take place in like a Kenobi standalone. It's got a backpack. He's got like a little cane in the back of it, and cape is flowing in the breeze. That is a Kenobi. Just that one figure, I'm dying to get my hands on. It's like $500. I don't know if I can justify that, but yeah.
Well, you didn't buy the Phantom Hawk figure. I don't know why you buy that thing.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that much money in the bank right now.
So, yeah, I'd love to get my hands on that figure, but just the image of that figure is so. The artist who did the sculpt is an amazing talent, and just they could make some
the image, and I'll draw it for you.
Oh no, that's it. There we go. There goes my wallet.
Got him.
That's how we artists make our money. Appealing to what you want. We'll do it for you.
We're worse than drug dealers.
It's true. It's true.
Actually, the next one costs you.
Rich Parada did an Obi-Wan for me. Also, really, really nice piece.
So, are they doing an Obi-Wan solo movie?
There's talk.
There's
talk of it, but I haven't heard anything specific.
Would you want to see that post Revenge of the Sith or sometime earlier in his career?
I would like to see it between Revenge of the Sith and Tatooine. I mean, the whole reason he's there and he stayed on Tatooine was to protect Luke. So I would like to see outside elements that possibly learned of Luke being there. That would be a cool story. But I think him doing that protector role that, in the shadows, I think that'd be an interesting movie. I mean, that gets my $8 right now, and it ain't even been announced yet.
In the mid-20s series of the Star Wars comics, which if you're not reading and you're a Star Wars fan, really owe it to yourself, especially all 3 of the titles. Darth Vader, the Vader series is very good. The Dr. Aphra is amazing. If you love Indiana Jones and want to see Indiana Jones as a weapons dealer, really great character. And then the Star Wars themselves. The mid-20s, they do a shadow story where Ben Kenobi is on Tatooine and he comes afoul of some of the local crime syndicates on Tatooine, and that was a very, very fun story.
Oh, I missed that one. I'll have to check it out. Oh, hey, we're getting ready to wrap up. Nick, tell us about your Kickstarter. How's that going?
It's going really well. We just hit our first stretch goal, which means that if you back any physical reward on the Kickstarter, you will get a Phantom Hawk trading card with cool artwork on the front and, of course, his stats and stuff in the back. I'm still in developing and trying making it like a playing game with the Apogee universe, but I've still got some more development to do on that. So it's doing really well. We got 10 days left. June 10th, it goes dead, and then we'll start getting those rewards out somewhere around August. So if you haven't backed it, shared it, liked it, checked it out, now's the time.
Okay, and that is Return of Phantom Hawk on Kickstarter right now, right?
The Phantom Hawk Returns. If you type that into Kickstarter, it'll show right up. It'll be a really cool guy.
Anybody have any closing thoughts before we wrap things up?
Go see Solo.
Go see Solo.
Learn to speak Shriwook.
All right. Well, hey, listeners, thanks for checking us out today. We will catch you next time on the BAMF Podcast.